Welcome to this edition of The Golden Rule. The Golden Rule, the purpose of this program is to encourage people in this Detroit Lakes community to do what's right. And we have a thing going called Detroit Lakes Becoming a Beacon of Righteousness. We want to see people drawn here to this city for the right reasons. People are drawn to New Orleans for the wrong reasons, and we want them to be drawn to Detroit Lakes for the right reasons. Righteousness, people treating one another kind of like Andy, what's his name?
Andrew
Mayberry RFD, where people are just nice. They're happy, they treat one another well, and it's a lovey-dovey relationship. And so that's what we're looking for. And so the Golden Rule says that we are to treat others the way we want to be treated. And in order to promote that concept, we've invited different people on the program here to share their testimony, how God has been a blessing in their lives and how they have been a blessing to other people. And so my guest today is Scott Eiley. Scott, welcome.
Thank you.
We've ran over time on the last time we did this, and so thank you for agreeing to come back and do it a second time. We're trying to encourage Christian business owners to not be so in the closet about it that nobody knows they're Christians. And yet, we're not trying to encourage people to be so in your face that you drive people away either. So there's a middle of the road there. You have a trademark in Detroit. If you want to explain that, how you came about that and what it means?
Well, certainly. Yeah, it's good to be with you today. Anyway, years ago, when I was getting going in my tree service business, my father-in-law worked for me, whom well known in their community, Dave Seberg, the Honorable Dave Seberg, I call him. And anyhow, Dave is also a calligrapher, I believe they call it. He does very nice handwriting. Well, Dave would carve the cross and the fish into the tree stump after we had removed the tree. And he did such a beautiful job. Most of our customers really appreciated that, and they commented how nice that was. So we just started using that as our trademark. And Dave got smart and got a better job after a while and left me. But anyhow, I continued to use the cross and the fish as our trademark and to honor the Lord in our work. And we've had many, many compliments on that over the years. Very rarely, maybe once or twice, I've had people ask me not to do it. But for the most part, people, and have had many requests as specifically that I would do it to make sure that I didn't forget to do it. So anyhow, that's how that came about, Barry.
That's good. So when that topic comes up, the topic of God comes up, have you ever had opportunity to pray with your customers?
I believe so. Yeah, I know over the years I've had many opportunities to talk to customers about God, about Jesus. You know, they weren't familiar with the sign, didn't know what it meant, so I would have an opportunity to explain that to them and share my testimony with him. I've had opportunities to pray with customers. I just appreciate this community so much. I've gotten to work for, I've gotten to know so many wonderful people in this community. Many have become friends. You know, I just feel like a friend of the family after working for them over the years. And just this community has been very good to me and my family. And so.
As we were discussing this program, you had mentioned something about wanting to share along the lines of the economic challenges that we're facing today. And did you have something you wanted to say concerning that?
Well, I guess what I would like to say is honor God in everything you do, like the Golden Rule says, and part of that is tithing, helping the poor and the needy if you can. These were all things that Jesus stated that it's important for us to do. Take care of the widows and the fatherless. I know one reason why I believe my business had been blessed was I've worked for many widows in our community over the years, and I would try to be a blessing to the widows especially. And those in the listening audience that are thinking about going into business, I highly recommend that you especially bless the widows. You'll find it's some of the best advertising you can get, because they'll tell all their friends that you did a good job for them and blessed them, being fair and honest and
It's very good. And Jesus says in James chapter 1, pure religion, undefiled before God and the Father, is this: to visit the widows in their affliction.
Oh.
And that's a powerful ministry. You know, a lot of times, before I became a Christian, if you'd have asked me, for instance, to go to a nursing home, I said, go to a nursing home? That's the last place I want to go. And I didn't know what the Bible said about that topic. And so it's very important as you think about this. And you know, there are some of you watching this program that you're in a situation where you're going to have to make a decision shortly about care for your elderly parents. And I want to encourage you, do whatever you can for as long as you can to allow them to be independent. Because it's just important, very important. Scott, you know, your work is somewhat seasonal, although you do work. Do work around the
weather permitting. We work through the winter months. As a matter of fact, the cold temperature can actually be a friend of mine. Some properties are the ground is so soft that you can't bring equipment in. But if the ground is frozen, you can bring equipment in to get the work done. And a lot of my customers are lakeshore owners, and the trees will be hanging over the lake. Well, if you wait till wintertime when there's plenty of ice, you can
drop it right on the lake.
It's almost fun just to drop it on the ice and drag it to a public access or whatever to, get rid of it. So,
do you enjoy your work? Do you enjoy what you're doing?
I do. Yeah.
It shows. So, you have your job is somewhat different as far as employees are concerned. You can't necessarily hire somebody full time, and you got kind of a revolving door, don't you, in terms of employees? How does that happen? How does that come about?
Well, yeah, it is somewhat seasonal, so the winters can be slow, and a lot of the people who have worked for me are young people that this isn't the career that they were looking for, and I can't say as I blame them. It's hard work. It can be dangerous work. So I've hired a lot of people over the years. Got to meet and know a lot of people. Made a lot of friends that way. But it is challenging because anymore the equipment that I have, you have to have a CDL in order to drive it. Well, if a person has a CDL, they probably would rather get a job where they didn't have to do so much manual labor. So it has become a challenge to find help. And as a matter of fact, I probably will be going into retirement before long. I'm old enough now, and I'll probably just do small jobs and the jobs that aren't so labor intensified and whatnot. And
you have a heart for people who've been in jail, and you've used your position as an employer to try and help someone get back on their feet over the years, have you not?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. How did you get involved in jail ministry? I know that you have been doing this for quite a long time. Tell a little bit about how you got started.
Well, when I was a resident at the House of Agape back in the 70s, there was an elderly gentleman from Pine River, a dear old saint by the name of Everett Dable, who would come to Becker County once a month to do a church service or a Bible study at the jail. he had found out about the House of Agape, came there to see if he could get any volunteers to help him do the jail ministry. Me and another fella volunteered to help him. I was a new convert. I didn't know much about the Bible, but I did have a testimony. And so I would go, Jim and myself would go to the jail with old Everett to help him do the service. After a few years, Everett got too old to do it anymore, and he asked me if I'd take over. Well, I certainly didn't feel qualified to do it, but I felt, well, I guess I'm the next in line, so I volunteered. I offered to take over for him, and I had been doing jail ministry up until just a year or two ago when due to COVID, they had to shut down the programming, but I did jail ministry for over 40 years, I guess, and I got to really enjoy it, really love it. It's one of the few places where I can preach where everybody doesn't walk out on me, so it's worked out very well.
That's great. Well, did you ever spend time in jail yourself?
Very little. I did spend a little time in jail. My dad came, bailed me out when I was 15. I should have spent time in jail. I should have went to prison, but somehow or another God spared me. But I can relate to these fellas who end up in trouble with the law. I know what it's like.
Yeah, you mentioned something earlier. I want to go back to it just briefly. As far as your safety record is concerned, you've had a pretty good, considering the type of business you're in. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about.
Well, running chainsaws, working, up in trees and on roofs, and a lot of times trees can be very dangerous if they'll break off and hang up in another tree, and there's pressure on it. It's like a loaded spring. You can make a cut and things can happen real quick. But I've been very, very fortunate. We haven't really suffered any serious injuries. Every morning before we go to the job, we'll take a few minutes and pray and ask for God's help and protection, and He has been faithful to us. I've had many close calls, more than I could probably count, but the Lord has delivered me from them all.
People who don't know God don't understand the blessing it is to walk with Him. One of the verses in the Bible says, "The angel of the Lord camps round about them that fear Him and delivers them." And we have no way of knowing on this side of heaven how many times we've been spared from something like that. So God is interested in your business, He's interested in your life, and He's interested in you treating other people the way you want to be treated. That's the name of this program, The Golden Rule. And I thank you for tuning in today. And if you know somebody who has a testimony that is compatible with this format and they would like to share it, please have them contact me at the phone number on the screen. Thanks, God bless you, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Barry.